That's better. Oh. Hi everybody. As I take my clothes off, and not mine, but Marilyn's. Blessed soul. I say blessed soul because, as you may or may not know, I work with the unseen realms as well. So Marilyn has stepped forward into my world where I am then replicating her. It's real, it's not made up. It's just one thing I want to say. Whether you believe this crossover is actually no business of mine whatsoever. As I take my makeup off to try and make myself look slightly younger, I'm going to go through my slides. It's really lovely to be here. Thank you for showing up. Yeah, thank you for making the effort. And I have a cold, and I was on the verge of not showing up today, but throughout today I was like, I really want to. So forgive me if I'm going to be coughing and splurting and having a few snots here and there. It's just how it is. Yeah, it's not COVID, don't worry. I've done the test and I'm completely free in that department. So yes, my story. This painting is obviously a self-portrait, but I was probably aged 17, 18 when I did it. And I remember painting it and having probably some stuff going on at home. And I ended up giving it to my dad. And I remember his response was, I painted it for him actually, and he welcomed it with politeness, and yet there was, he never put it up, he hid it away. And now, where I am at my age, I can definitely see why. It has so much in there, and I think it showed so much for me when I was that age that I was completely unaware of then. But now, being the adult that I am, I feel it shows, so I wanted to put that in there. Bob Marley, very random picture, I know, but it's something I drew as a teenager, and he's a legend anyway, but he's one of my legends, and still is. So, it's probably one of my original little drawings of a teenager. That's why I wanted to share it. So where did I begin? I'm going to try and skip over this as quickly as possible. But I went to school, a girls' school in Bath, and I remember my art teacher, Mr. Jepson. Isn't it funny how we remember certain teachers that mean something to us? And he really did mean something to me, because he was raising all of his cards up to say, you are an artist, despite your struggles in school, despite your struggles with the academia, with all of it actually. But art was absolutely my thing, and he supported me in it, and he helped me, pushed me to get through getting my maths and my English. And he also helped me, because he believed in me so much, to get into the Bath College for my foundation course. And then I ended up going there. Going back to the picture I just showed you, there were problems at home that made me decide to leave home, leave this college. That meant so much to me. That was my sanity, because my teacher helped me get in. And I ended up going to foundation course in Bournemouth, which I loved. I absolutely loved my foundation course. It gave me the opportunity to explore and just, what's art about? It's not just painting, it's all this other stuff too. And then I skipped over, went to Cardiff Art College and specialised in sculpture, but I was really interested in, or discovered, should I say, I was interested in the performance side. So I did lots of different things. I've always been obsessed with space, and I want to say that because you've probably seen the pieces at the back, and it's the whole concept of space, of what space means, physical aspect, but also that unseen thing of what's beyond. Cling film sculptures I used to make. I made my fellow companions at art college watch a porn movie, and they set it up like a cinema, and there was a big screen there, and there was a secret camera recording them, and it was a 2-part movie, and they watched the porn movie, and then the second part was them watching them watch the porn movie. And I did get cursed quite a lot from my dearest friends, but I remember my teacher loving it openly. But I've always loved that kind of pushing buttons. I think that's why I did it. And then I got into voyeurism. In an innocent way, I want to say, but I used to create these kind of sculptures that you would have to physically look in like this, and I'd be sitting behind there, or there'd be a video behind there with them in the spy hole in another room, so there was 2 things going on. I'd sit behind a glass wall just doing stuff, as though they were voyeuring into my life. And then I started to do secret cameras in bags and literally just follow people around the streets, and then I used those videos. Eventually, I created a character called Adriana Films, and she joined a dating agency, and part of my final piece was I actually went on a date as Adriana Films. She was almost the absolute opposite of what I was. I was a small, dreaded, literally like little blonde dreads, completely, just wacky clothes. Just wear cling film myself, but she was just the opposite. And the bizarre thing is, this guy stood her up. But I used all the film works. I had someone having a secret camera in the pub, and then someone else, I had a DAT machine on me, so I had all this kind of secret stuff. So I still used the technology that I went out in to do, but yeah. So that was Adriana. That was my first character that was created, unknowingly, but it's developed just to so many different places. Shortly after that, I went to Coed Hills, a Royal Arts space in Cardiff. Lived there for about 6 months, and that is where I started to sew. And they had a beautiful workshop. They had a sewing machine. Oh, what should I do? I just started playing with these old garments and just started sewing these pieces together. And I realised I could sew. Never to that point did I know that. My mum was a seamstress. I've never been I'm self-taught completely with all that I do. But there must have been something in my roots of why I'm able to create garments and these sculptures. In 2004, after the 6 months, I moved to Aberystwyth in West Wales and started making clothes, started upcycling. And I only found out just 2 days ago, which I completely forgot. My dear friend Popple, who is here, reminded me that the first label was called Lamb, because he owns garment, probably the only garment. And then Raggedy was born. And I began by upcycling old garments. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was literally just playing. But there was always something that I realised that they were sculptural, that I didn't intend for them to be sculptural. It's just how my perceiving or how my seeing was within them. I don't do things in halves. And when I'm into something, I walk with it. So therefore I was just totally dedicated to creating these clothes and just seeing where it went. And then I applied for a fashion show. This is the first fashion show I did in Cardiff with all of my things. It's really into the Victorian era at that time, as you can see. They're quite sassy. And then scribble stitch, which is my signature style, was born, and that was literally from me just putting two pieces of fabric together. Hey, what can I do? And started scribbling. This has stayed with me throughout all of my artwork, my clothing and my present artwork now. And as you can see there, it's my mum came up with that name, and I was just like, oh my god, that's brilliant. So I've kept it. So once I was playing around with this idea of scribble stitch, and everything I do is a bit upside down and a bit, it's just not from the fashion college is at all. I didn't go to fashion college, so I've broken every rule I can imagine. And then I did a collection, which I didn't know what a collection was at the time, but I applied for the Alternative Fashion Week in London and I created a collection. So these are pieces. So things kept going forward, and people were then approaching me and saying, would you do a photo shoot? I'm a photographer, or I'm a fashion show in Swansea or something. Can we please have your garments? So this was going on for several years. And another photo shoot, which was great. They styled it. They saw, my clothes were about. And all of this is upcycled, so at the core of Raggedy is sustainability, which I don't really talk about very much now, because for me it's the norm and it should just be. But that's, I'm old school. I was, in the early days of believing in upcycling and sustainability. So there's another, what I call Coatigan. Another fashion show in Wales and Cardiff. This was themed, I believe. It was the kind of four elements, I think. And they liked a couple of pieces that they wanted to use, and then I created a couple more pieces to go with it. Another photo shoot, 2009. So I think I've shown you these pieces because from where I began with just zigzag stitch on the outside, through pure play and pure passion and discovering the scribble stitch, I have now discovered that, oh my gosh, I can actually make clothes in a very quirky and alternative way. I created this corset, never done a corset before in my life, and I experimented, and then I didn't want to make a normal corset, so I designed this tailed corset. And then what was happening, because I had a couple of fashion shows with that, brides wanted me to make them their wedding dresses. Amazing, yes, they're alternative, they loved it. So these are actual beautiful brides in their attire. Everything is all upcycled, so they're little scraps, old clothing, offcuts, curtains. And this is a fashion shoot that I did, as you can see, it's a derelict trains. I can't remember, I don't really know what it was, but there's just derelict trains everywhere. With a woman called Aga. And I absolutely loved this fashion shoot. She had an eye, the photographer had an eye, and had an eye for my clothing and where my clothing would work. So they're just 3 shots from that scene. So Alternative Fashion Week 2009 was a winner for me. I loved it. So I applied again the following year, and I upped my game. I really created however many pieces. I think there's one person off of there as well out of this picture, but I created a collection that would really work together. I understood what it meant to make a collection now, and using old clothes, old garments, and this was little snippets from that. So as you can see, we're snipping back to 2004 again. When I moved to Aberystwyth in Wales, there was two things. Street theatre was tapping on my door, and also clothing. So, with being a person who wears many hats, I was like, let's do it. So, Earthlings was born exactly at the same time. And we created characters. So Popple, who was actually here, who I won't point out, yeah, he was my street theatre partner. We created these amazing characters together. So I made the costumes, obviously, with the latex. I learned through just myself, again, self-taught, how to do masks. And Popple made these amazing hearts that kind of had all these kind of weird and wonderful things pop out and everything. So we used to get bookings for street theatre events or festivals, or brought a lot of fun and a lot of joy, not only to the people that we were interacting with, but it brought a lot of joy to us as well. These are the Plumply elves, they're very innocent. Very much fun. And then we have the ice cream and her butler. So there's Mr. Slashpit on the left, and then Z, who came up, who was born a year later or something. So yeah, some of them I loved, some of them not so. The Ice Queen I wasn't so keen on. The Goblin Doctors, who you saw previously, were definitely one of my favourites. And then through that journey of just play and performance and making things and being creative, all of these characters and more, which I'd like to add, I haven't added all of them on here, was created during those years in Aberystwyth. All absolutely beautiful, as you can see. That's just a little Christmas wonder, especially as we are here close to Christmas. Put down a hat and put on another hat during the same sort of time. It was probably at the early days of when Earthlings was born, actually, but we both applied for this street theatre company called Lost Chaos, who were very established. They used to do performance all over the world. And we heard or found somewhere that they were wanting a tribe. Well, I looked pretty tribal anyway, and I was kind of quite earthy person, into nature and all of those things, and I loved performance. It was like, oh my god, it was like a win-win. So I applied for it and got the job. I mean, it was terrifying because we had to kind of do this kind of, I can't remember, but we definitely had to perform something. We were there like, and bizarrely enough, we were doing street theatre, improvised street theatre, which is where you go out and you just improvise. But we also created our own language, and we would kind of always move as a tribe, and we would communicate with each other with this amazing language. And then we created a show, and then the fingers were at me to be the shaman of the show. I wasn't doing the work that I do now back then, so it's just ironic that I was. So obviously this is AA, the shaman and the performance. So I think that was taken in Brighton. There was a Brighton Street Festival. Thousands of people performed there, and that was when we first performed it. It was amazing. So I was with them for a few years, and another thing I was doing, put down that hat, another one, was I worked with a puppeteer company called Vagabondy Puppets, and this was a show that we created together, Pirate Hags. Captain Mary Maguire, she is. And yeah, so this is obviously the show that we performed, Captain Mary Maguire, and this incredible ship, again created from Popple, came out, and it's magic, and all opened out into from a treasure chest into a ship, which was our stage to do the puppeteering on. And yeah, so that's a mini me. mini Captain Mary Maguire. And that's, oh no that isn't, but that's Annie Greengrass. And that's just another shot from another puppeteering show we did. So everything again was created from us, the kind of like hands-on, the artistic side, performance as well as our costumes, as well as the puppets. With all these hats, I had to decide on what to do, because I literally worked morning till night on all these things, absolutely loved it, I feel blessed, but I had to decide, Earthlings or Raggedy. Well, Raggedy was definitely rolling forward. People were coming at me for doing this, that and the other, and she was selling really well, so I had to kind of fizzle out Earthlings. The decision was made. So Raggedy, I grabbed with both hands and ran with her. And again, just creating these garments that I was just feeling how much, you know, I grew throughout the years. And then someone approached me to be in the refashioned book, which is at the back there if you feel you want to have a look afterwards. And yeah, which was absolutely incredible, because I know some of the designers in there who I go, oh my God, you're absolutely amazing. And I'm beside them. So for me, that was like, okay, I'm successful just to my level. I'm not talking about out there, but to my level, I'm successful. To meaning, I'm feeding my heart. That's what I mean by success. Not success in the world, but feeding my heart. So yeah, that was brilliant. It was time for change. So I ended up moving to a studio in Frome. And I was there from 2012 to 2019. The best studio I have ever had. I absolutely loved it. It was with 22 other artists in this massive old silk mill, all converted for the pure sake of art. They converted the silk mill. It was amazing. I felt very blessed to be there. I was one of the first people who took a studio on. And then these are just more clothing development of how my clothing has grown over the years. And when I was living in Frome, I fully embraced it. I applied for things. I made massive efforts. I created collections, as I was talking about before. So I had Roots, which are the original, the classics of Raggedy. The Coatigans, the upcycled, using tweeds, using bits and pieces, using old jumpers. There's more Roots, classic shapes, classic designs, very sculptural. And then I came up with making a pattern which was way, way, way out of my comfort zone, but I wanted to try it. So I ended up making some patterns. As you can see, this is one of them. I think there's two guys in here that are wearing them too. In this room. Sketchbook, entirely made from British Wool Factory. So I had a contact where they just sent me their offcuts. So I created the fabrics before, and then created the garments. And Fragments was offcuts of linen from another designer. So again, she used to bag them up. And I used to go and pick them up, and some of them were like tiny pieces. So my passion for waste is huge in all of what I do, so especially when it comes to materials. Bubble collection. So these were made inspired originally from a bag of t-shirts that said, I can't do anything with these, they're offcuts prints, we can't sell them, can't go to charity shops, so I don't use t-shirts. But obviously I do. So I created these amazing textural garments. Coatigans is one of my signatures pieces. Everybody wants a coatigan. Who likes Raggedy, by the way? Not everyone here. Another one, classic Raggedy, my high-waisted trousers. Just going to flip through this bit. So Rebirth, this is the first exhibition I did with my clothing, and it was basically, as you can see, a sewing machine. And the idea was about rebirthing. So all of what I do is like rebirthing from scraps of fabric into a beautiful garment. And it was quite a spectacular garment, all made out of t-shirts. So I went to charity shops, grabbed t-shirts. It was in 2015. And that was a photo shoot. Oh, that we did. The next exhibition was Destruction. There we go. I wasn't sure what I'm doing over here. And my partner is a garden designer, so I asked him about bringing outside in, and because I wanted to have this idea of like, am I allowed to swear? How we fluff up, let's say. And I really wanted to show that kind of idea of having an amazing garment and almost like human-esque. From total dirt, and it was amazing. These pieces were literally just the other side of the silk mill, and there was gypsies that were living on there, and we used to burn plastic and all that. So we just grabbed it from there and put it in with these beautiful plants. And yeah, another fashion show in Brighton Fashion Show 2015. Pop-up shop in Frome. This, yeah, as it says, I absolutely loved it. Yeah, amazing. And there's Sharon. I had to pop her in there. She's my right-hand woman. She worked for me for several years. So whilst I was living in Frome, just probably at the end actually, I started my shamanic practitioner training. I won't go into detail of why I decided to do that, but in my life there's always been two pillars, where my creative, my artistic side, and then my woo-woo side, let's say. When I was young, I didn't know what it was. Until properly I actually put a label on it. I understood all what I had done throughout all of my life. Suddenly there was an explanation. Someone just explained it to me, and that was when I kind of dabbled in the shamanic practitioner training. It was before that I understood what shamanism was, but that was when I embraced it with both hands and decided to do a course. I just want to explain, the reason I'm explaining about this, as well as my art, as well as my clothes, is because I'm the artist, and everything I do comes from me, and it is my life offer, or it's my offering to the world as an artist. I am the artist, I am the art. That's how I see it. And everything I do now crosses over. So for me, it's really important to share this with you. So I went on this transformational journey, and I also learned skills that has just absolutely put gifts into my pockets. So all what you can see, I'm not going to explain them all, it's too much detail, but the core aspects of shamanism, and particularly shamanic healing. One of the things that I did on this course, I was invited to do, was to create a character, and first of all, journey to find out what character wants to step forward. And it's not a character, but it's a real spirit. That's the difference for me. And I did all this journey work, so journeying to the spirit world, to the unseen realms, asking who wants to step forward, so therefore I can merge with you and create a physical garment and become you. That might sound a bit topsy-turvy for, maybe not, I don't know, but Grandmother Rock was the ally that showed up for me. And therefore, as you can probably imagine, making clothes and performing, it just went click, click. The jigsaw puzzle just slotted in perfectly. It was a real light bulb moment for me when I was asked to create this. And I see it very differently now. All the performance I've done before was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I was merged with kind of a spirit or a character there. And I didn't know it. I never broke out of character. But now its actual intention is you become the spirit, you become who it is, and you show up to Grandmother Rock. This weaving over of starting to bring in the sacred with my garments. This is where it really started to begin as well, meaning Raggedy and my sacred work. So I started to do some journey work of knowing I wanted to make this particular garment, but I got visions or the seeing from my journey work. So anything I would go to the spirits with, they would show me, give me all the information. So the images, the colours, the intention, what it meant. And these sacred cocoon coats is one of them. And I did an exhibition with this one. I was invited again to do this exhibition in Frome, in the Cheese and Grain, I think it was called. And slipping on from that, so again, change, more change, embracing change. My partner moved to South Oxfordshire, where I commuted for 2 years until it was just far too much. It was just, no-brainer. And I think I was so attached to my studio, I didn't want to leave it. But I did find a beautiful studio here in Middlestoke, and that's where, completely different. I wasn't with anybody else. I was in the countryside on my own with a few people, but it was magic. I had a burner, it was just amazing. So I finally moved over here. Very first thing I did was Oxford Arts Week in my cabin at home before I moved into the studio. That was an amazing success, bizarrely, in the middle of nowhere. People came, bought my work, made brilliant contacts. That's my studio in South Oxfordshire. I'm just going to flip through these because, again, they're just more fashion shows. I'm showing you because it's almost like I'm a great believer when you kind of have something in front of you, pick it up and you grab it. No one's going to pick it up for you. It's like, no, okay, I want to do this, I'm going to walk in my life and I'm going to grab it. So I'm going to throw it out there. But you have to make that effort for it to get it received. I have to slip this in here because this is a big part of my life. And I'm not going to go into any detail about it, but I run sweat lodges with a group of us, and community is a massive part. These people, whoever they are my family, and it's a sacred aspect of something that we do. You can't more than welcome to ask me questions afterwards if you've got anything about any of this. So I qualified my shamanic practitioner course, which I was doing alongside my clothing, which I definitely witnessed this crossover, this merge between the two was happening. From my training, I then ran sacred circles, sacred movement, healing work, mentoring, and then also teaching and retreats. I won't really explain that unless if you have questions about what I mean by this after, you're more than welcome. But there's 3 realities I work with. I probably will say it because I have this reality which I'm here communicating with you and people, and then there's upper realms and then there's lower realms. So all of my artwork is when I'm journeying to either 3 worlds. And what I mean by that is a shamanic journey with the drum, and I go off and I access information from the spirits. It's partnership with the spirits. And I wouldn't be doing the work if they weren't there. So spirits are loving, compassionate beings. They were once human, crossed over. This is just my belief, by the way. This is my art. This is who I am. I'm just sharing this with you. So whenever I do my artwork, I generally journey to either world. And obviously these are my artworks that I've created to show that. I then started making sacred art quilts, and all through journey work. What are they about? Show me the images. What colours? What shape? There we go, that's what I've created. And then they're blessed and they're awakened. What I mean by that is there's an energy exchange. I believe that everything's alive. So when I create this garment, everything is, or sort of this garment or this quilt, everything's done in ritual. So there's a moment where I'm there, I call in, and then I'm surrounded with my bits and pieces, and I'm pottering here and there, and everything is done with total respect of this incredible energetic thing that I feel is coming alive. And then at the end there's a blessing, and there's a smudging, and there's awakening. There's a honouring for that piece of art that is actually, for me, is coming alive. More sacred cocoon coats. Every single cocoon coat I have made has sold immediately, and they're not lower end garments. They take a very long time. It's phenomenal. People are just like, yeah. And I've only made 5. These are the sort of details that are on the inside. Again, they're blessed, they're awakened, they're energized, created for a protection. There's another one here. So when you put the garment on, there's an energy imprint. They're not just beautiful objects to put on your wall or to put on when you're going out. There's a whole other element to it. I was asked to then create a sacred art quilt for a wedding, as it says, for a group of friends commissioned me, which was beautiful. Some stage it gets a little bit, okay, just saying this, but what I was finding, I was not throwing myself out there at all, absolutely was not, for some bizarre reason, things were just coming to me. So another group of friends asked me to make them if I could make them a blanket to put over their dear friend who only was suddenly diagnosed with cancer and only had 2 weeks to live. And they panicked, they just wanted to share their love. So they came to me and asked me if I could make something. So yes, of course, journey work and all of the information of what this beautiful woman was about, this is what I've created. And it was placed over her during her time when she was deteriorating, and she was wrapped in it when she crossed over, when she died. So for me, that was just another thing. I felt blessed to be able to do that for them, and for her, and her family. So I started creating these garments as well as art pieces. And I loved that kind of match over of the idea of a void, that transition into something, that journey into something. A sacred garment commissioned specifically for a woman. She was into lightning, and her power animal was a fox. So the voids. You can see that piece at the back there. Completely and entirely made from tiny pieces of scraps that were created, and I wanted to create this effect of space, but going through something. That idea, that the curiosity of what's beyond, what is there? Where is that taking me? I wanted that idea of triggering the curious mind. Lockdown was great. I have to say, I absolutely, not great for people who are ill. I don't mean that aspect. I just mean in my own personal life. I stopped. I've just talked about all of the things that I do, loads of hats, and I stopped. And I played. I gave myself permission to just, And that's what I did. I embraced my inner artist. Sorry, I didn't realise it was on my arrow there. So without worrying about the kind of the judge, which is something I could do. Oh, you know, the judgment of the artist is like, why are you making that? What's the point of making that? What does that mean? What, just random little like scrappy little long things? No, that just was gone out the window. You know, I was like, this is time for me. So walking with the ancestors, it meant they were just pieces of fabric. There were things in them though, and they were wrapped with massive intention. I was calling on the ancestors to come, and each one was an ancestor as far as I was concerned. I was calling upon that spirit of the ancestor that I'm wrapping into this for love, and that's kind of, so that's where this was created from. Sacred fools were born. I used to go out, well I still do, and always have, go out, like, go to the beach or go to the woods and just find pieces of twigs and wood. I mean, surely everybody does that. And there's like, you know, oh, that's really interesting. But then I suddenly thought, and I'd see faces in them, or, you know, something. So I started to work with them. Perfect example, that amazing piece of wood I found on the driftwood on the beach. Excuse me. And then a sacred fool was born with fabric. And again, every one of them has this wrapping method I talked to you about, where the intention goes in. I realised, like the grandmothers weave when they weave their stories into their own blankets in South America. It was a similar method I discovered of having this stick, finding a sacred fool in the spirit world, creating it, whatever you're going to look like, and then sealing this wrapping, sealing it in. Again, another example. I mean, you can see the face, right? Already, it's just there. Smoker. Another one. I loved making these so much. Another piece of artwork that I just made for the hell of making it. Again, just with the scribble stitch. So yeah, I really loved lockdown, the beginning part of it, because then I didn't like it so much. Because of that. And, well, that's one of them anyway. So you lock down a lot of pain, you know, for a lot of us. And yeah, so my mother-in-law, Jean, passed away on 15th of May. And I realised before, when we were told that she was really ill, I just had this overwhelming, I can't even explain it, knowing that I had to show up for her. And it terrified me, that idea. And yet I knew I had to do it. I have not done all of this work with the spirit world to just hide away in fear. And so I told my partner that I'm going to offer, what do you think? I'm going to offer like to go and be with her for 2 weeks. Sorry, not 2 weeks, but just be with her, look after her. And he said, absolutely. Approached her, she said yes. I had absolutely no idea what I was putting myself up for. I really didn't. I arrived, and we had a 2-week journey, and obviously she was deteriorating. I did everything I did not expect. I helped her clean, I cleaned her, I helped her to the toilet, I brushed her teeth, you know, then obviously she couldn't drink, so therefore then the cotton walls would come out and I would have to wet her mouth. And just be a support for her. I'd hug her when she needed a hug. And you really help her. It was really hard and really beautiful, and I felt really blessed. And I'm talking about it because we don't often talk about death, and yet death for me is life. and certainly in the work that I do, the shamanic work. So when she passed over, she was surrounded by her family, every one of them. It was the most beautiful and calm passing I think we could have ever wished for, actually. Darren's stepdad, her partner, asked me to make her a sacred blanket. Between the time she passed away to the funeral, I think it was so like, oh my God, I don't have the time and I'm grieving, but I did it. And I would say that she's probably sat there right now. That's the blanket. And the reason we have it is because there was a story that went with it afterwards where it directed from spirit that it would be passed around to all the family for however long, whatever they wanted to do with it. It could just sit there in the cupboard, or it could be covered over them. And then it's made its way back to Darren, my partner. What to us, should I say? Gonna be honest, it's totally cheesy. Like this sort of thing, just is like, oh man, it's just too cheesy. But it's what spirit showed me. It's what I journeyed to spirit. This is what they showed me. I did a painting of it. I was just like, really? Okay. And that's it. And everything is made from her garments. So there's bags up of garments that was given to me. And this is a really special part, this pink flower bed, because it was her house coat that her first husband, Darren's dad, gave to her. And I remember she whispered in my ear, and she wore it the whole time to her death. And she whispered in my ear, she said, do you know this comes from Darren's dad, which is her first husband who passed away a long time before her. And she said, it's really means something special to me. So, of course I had to put it in there. So yeah, there it is. I also just started painting things in nature, and I'd walk down pathways and just see this kind of like opening that just seemed like a pathway to infinity. And I loved that. So, 6 months later, my dad, I think it was in November, we were told, 6 months after Jean and me, that he phoned me up and he said, I've got cancer. So, really. Prostate cancer. And, yeah. It was a massive life changer for me. Not only because of my dad passing, but massive change because I embraced my art in a way that I did not know how to embrace what I just expressed. And I looked after him for a month. I moved in again. Jean was an easy ride, bless her soul. My dad was absolute opposite, and not to go into great detail, but it was quite traumatic. He didn't want to die, and he begged us, and totally traumatic. And I just sat there in the room helping him as he deteriorated, and sit there in the room, just like, what can I do? Well, this honestly was my saviour. I started to paint. I sat in the room, he was there, over there, in the bed, laying there, on drugs, pain, whatever. And I had this little table and I just started to just paint. Ever, I did not know I could paint at that point, not really, so I was cloth, obviously. And I just expressed myself. And I expressed myself. And these are the paintings that came out when I was sat there with my dad. You can kind of see the story, the theme that was happening. I love this one, I have to say. I did this one in one day and I did that in another day, and I deliberately thought, where's he going? So, no, he needs help. There he is. So it's two kind of pieces together. Expressions, I just was finding myself just doing these emotional things. So all of these, I was painting every day. Painting. It wasn't just painting, sorry, it was just sketching, drawing. And then there was a point where, this is him going. And I remember this one particularly, because that was really close. It just resembled everything to me. Especially when we watched him pass away, we were with him. I knew it was happening. I walked into the room, I said, everybody, he's passing, he's going. And we went, what? I said, he's going. And I sat with him. And through all the trauma of the death, he actually passed away incredibly peacefully. Took his last breath. It was so beautiful. I don't know what was happening with me, some weird stuff was happening, but I remember this painting, which now I've given to my mum, by the way, because she asked for it. And then there were three, me, my mum and my sister. A very simple picture, but symbolises a lot. At that time, I couldn't see anything around me at all. All I could see that there was just three of us. And then there was a void, and I was stood at the edge of the void, not knowing what the future holds. In my grief. Tiny bit, bring a bit of life, bring a bit of smiles, because it really was my sanctuary. Cold waters got me in my body, absolutely, 100%, especially through my grief. It was amazing. I think I realised, I consider my artwork to be raw and to be real and to be contemplative, boundary-pushing, sacred, thought-provoking and expressive and with an emotional trigger. So, I've shown up to give you this story, to show you who I am, because my life story is important with my artwork, as you may realise. 100-day project. I decided to make a head every day for 100 days, but I stopped because I was also painting for 100 days every day, and it literally took up half a day every day. I was like, this is ridiculous. But I had a theme. It was space between stories. Space between stories. I can't remember. It's on the back. There's some over there on the back. And I started painting. And again, it was all around these ideas of something other. This kind of, there's something beyond, or there's infinite possibilities if we take that risk. So many things to it. I remember doing that painting a year after my dad's death as part of the 100-day project. The ceremony is a very, very big part of my work. And I decided I needed a break from raggedy, sort of. I needed to step away to allow my art to unfold, because I realised how much I loved making my artwork. So I did this massive ceremony, and I created this jar. I wrote a letter before and on solstice, created this kind of vessel, put it on the fire, did a sweat lodge, and I threw it out to the universe. It's like, okay, this is my intention. I want to let go of everything. I want to take a risk, because I know there's infinite possibilities out there. And then I started making little 3D people. And what was happening was, from the paintings I did on 100 days, I started to make 3D artwork with it. So the painting is on the left over there, and then I started which is here, that piece is here. And to bring it into what I know, into the 3D world. Another one, I think that's here too. The painting from the 100-day project, and then made it into a 3D piece. And there's another one. There's another one. There's another one. Yeah, as you can see the little person here is walking up the ladder. So that was from the very first 100-day project. When my dad was crossing, as well as that one. Start to bring it into garments. So I made these kind of 3D sculptural voids in the garments with stitch work, and then I painted on like a little person. Always a little person, there he is. And then I really made a lot of voids. I just absolutely love making them, this stitch work, and creating this 3-dimensional space, looking in, voyeurism. It's so bizarre. I find that everything there's a full circle that's come back with my work. My little liminal pads. More sculptural pieces, little people. Okay, what's present? Well, there's lots of artwork over there. I'm doing, present is what I'm doing. It's creating art, and without any reason, without any intention, without literally I'm there as we're watching a movie or something, and I'm just there, just doing stuff. And that is, for me, so good for my soul. It's my meditation, it's my healing, it's my expression, I don't even know what's coming out, I'm just, so portraits are a big part of my work. I've just discovered that. I love doing portraits. Not portraits copying people, I'm talking about portraits from the infinite, just coming forward. And these are my most recent drawings. And there's more over there, I haven't got any more on here. This is what I'm talking about. Random, yeah? But they kind of talk to me. They still have that essence of curiosity for me. And what they mean. This one particularly was about mirroring, that idea of reaching out into the mirror and having that connection with yourself, and what do you see anyway? And I brought artwork into rattles, into my actual sacred tools I've made. So drums and rattles, but rattles particularly. What's present? Well, one of the things that is present, there's a series called Silo. I don't know if any of you have heard of that. That's on at the moment on Apple TV, and they bought 10 pieces of my artwork. I know, but it came out in May this year, that's all I know. I started to watch it just this last 2 weeks ago, and I did spot a couple of pieces, I squealed very loudly. But these are the pieces. These are the pieces that they bought. Walking with the ancestors, right? It's just like, yeah! They're these random little lockdown pieces, and yet they wanted to buy them, and they did. And they also bought my sacred fools. Woohoo! So yeah, that was brilliant. And to watch it, and now you know what they look like. You can spot them. Marilyn. I really wanted to show up with her today. I did a course. One of the things that we had to do was discover. There's a thing I do, it's like a journey, but you walk the lemniscate like this. You go from one world into the knot, which is in between, which is the other world. And we were asking for a character to step forward. And it was either old or homeless. And Marilyn stepped forward. And then what I didn't know until we arrived is that we sort of created this whole character, the history, what she was about, the clothes, I had to go charity shopping, and yay, I love that part. And then we had to go out as them on the street. We did this full merging with the character, with the spirit of Marilyn, dressed up, and then we got onto a coach and we were dropped off and we performed. And I say it like that because it's entirely different from the performance I've done before. It was real. I walked around the street as Marilyn. She's complete opposite from me. I can be quite loud and wear wacky clothes and get seen. Not all the time, I have to say. I spend a lot of time on my own. She was utterly invisible. Utterly invisible. She waddled up. No one saw her. She sat on a bench on her own. It wasn't interacting with people. She just was who she was. And it brought me to tears. So, because it was so real, I understood what it was like to be an old woman on a level that I've never done before, basically. I love old people, the elderly, sorry, not old, the elderly. But it was a different performance, and I really want to do more of this, so that's why I brought it to the end. What next? From this evening onwards? Well, next weekend, if you fancy going to Yatterton Market, that's where I'll be with all of my artwork and all of my clothing. Maybe not all of them, but most of them. So yes, come along to that. And I'm doing an exhibition in the weekend after that, I think it is, in the Holy Gallery in London. I did one, like an artist call, and they selected me for 2 pieces to be a part of a group, which is called Cosmic, which I didn't even know when I applied for it, which is great. This is the same image, by the way, isn't it weird? Just upside down. It's just that kind of in-out thing. But yeah, so that's that. Time to heal, time to connect. So this is a project that I am presently doing. It's been taking me a long time, and the idea is to create a space where I've got these sculptural heads on plinths, on tree trunks or whatever, and it's a place that you're going to go to, and there's going to be some kind of healing exchange. All the things that I've just mentioned about empowering it up. They're going to have a theme, each one of them, and it's with a well-known, I was invited to do it by a well-known photographer called Alistair Morrison, and he's hand-picking an artist that's going to represent a county all over the country, and he's asked me to represent Oxfordshire, which is amazing. But I'm the one who has to do the work. I'm not getting paid for it, and I'm not, I need to create this thing. But I've come up with the idea, and I've started. These are just little mock-ets, and they're not very much, but these are going to be the real pieces. They're going to be concrete because I want them to be outside. So, and I want them to have a face of approachable face, something kind, caring. And so, if you know of any venues, outdoor venues in Oxfordshire, I'm serious. Please let me know, because it has to be in Oxfordshire, and I haven't found a place yet. So that's where I'm at, and that's who I am as an artist. I have no idea how long that was, but yeah, that's me. Thank you so much. How was it? Perfect, thank you. Excellent. Yeah. So any questions, or do you want to have tea, or what's the deal now, Katie?
Any questions?
I really appreciate everyone coming. Thank you so much, honestly.
I can't believe how much work you've made. I'm absolutely flabbergasted. I really am. And your motivation and your desire, it's not really a question, it's super respect. Yeah, amazing, really amazing.
Do you have these figures these heads that you're creating? You're getting you have a vision of what it is that you're looking to make. Are you as they're going to be a group for a space, is there a sort of, have you got a type of space that is in your mind when you're thinking of this group coming together, or is it?
Well, I was thinking originally in a forest, and actually it doesn't need to be accessible, because I like the idea of taking a pilgrimage to somewhere, you know. But it has to be accessible in the sense of people have to be allowed to go there. So that's kind of it. If someone was going to say, someone like, say for example, in the middle of Oxford Centre, well, I would probably make that work. I quite like that idea. I'd probably journey on it. But I think the original idea is to be out in nature. Because I want it to be permanent, that's why I'm doing it in concrete. It's been a battle for me, because I don't work like that. But I'm absolutely definite on what I want to do. I know what visually it looks like, I know the intention, I know it's going to be a healing space. There's going to be QR codes as well. So there's going to be voices on my website of me talking or singing, which I'm going to finish off with, by the way, my drum and rattle, drums, voice. Yeah. So I'm really open to suggestions. I really am. I'm a great believer in trust the process. So if something's going to come and it feels right, I'm like, yeah. You know, and also the opposite, if it doesn't feel right, it's like, no, okay, that's wonderful, but it's not for me. Any more questions?
Maybe later.
Yeah.
Conversation.
Yeah. What I would like to do before we finish is just to, I'm going to invite you in a moment to close your eyes. That's all you have to do. And I'm going to play my drum. I'm going to open my voice. I might croak here and there. But it's just to, thank you for coming. I'm just going to give you a little taster of the sort of thing I would do whenever I create something. And that's it, no explanation needed. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes, have no expectation. I am. Thank you. But that's what I would say, calling in the spirits, or giving thanks to them as I just did, for helping me.